By the way, 2 days in a row, excellent coffee.
He likes it. He likes it.
It's a dark roast? I bet it is, right?
It is, yes.
Is it a Pete's dark roast?
No.
Who makes it?
Intelligentsia.
Well, okay. So their dark roast isn't even dark.
It's not dark like the other.
Yeah, okay.
Boys.
Well, now your secret is out already. They make excellent coffee, and they give you great coffee, but they disguise it. They burn it a little bit just to give you the old heave-ho. But it's nothing like Starbucks.
No. It's a much better coffee. That's what I drink here at home. Well, hi, everyone. Welcome to the show.
Hey, how's it going?
You okay?
Hey! Here's what happened.
What happened?
The very first thing I thought of something to say in the car. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to start out with this. I don't know if anything else is going to work, but this will start it off. And then I forgot it right as we started. And then I tried to retrieve it. And I want to tell you people, if you're new comics, there's nothing entertaining about trying to retrieve something. Unless you're one of these kind of guys. Let me see. Skiddly bee, boobada beep bop, ookada bee.
Who's that?
Like a Michael Winslow or something where you could convey humor about thinking. Let me think.
Well,
welcome to
luckily people don't have to listen to
We don't.
this blabber anymore because we've
Can I tell you one thing? And don't forget what you're going to say, even though I want you to.
Okay.
No, go ahead. Say what you're going to say.
No,
I won't forget, Mike. I won't forget.
No.
This guy who's calling up people, Mayhem, the Mayhem guy. Hey, Schmicky. Yes. I'm at your house.
Yeah.
Huh? I'm
breaking into your car.
What?
That's
what
I do.
What?
Right.
What? If you find yourself in a commercial saying the word what?
You are getting paid scale.
You don't have a particularly good writer for that commercial.
If you find it saying it 4 times instead of 5, you've been screwed.
And I don't blame the guy, except for one thing. There's one thing where I think he's trying to sound like Mayhem would sound, and it's kind of a New Yorkie guy. Hey, yeah, that's what I do. That's what I do. Mayhem.
Yeah.
Like, why is that more mayhem?
I don't know why I can't get into your micro dissection of these commercials tonight.
Well, that's why you never toured from 94 to 2000 when all I did was, I don't mind TV, but I hate the commercials. Let's go. Boom. I did like a half hour every night.
Right.
I had a trunk.
That you lived in.
And I lived in. You know what I'd like to see?
What would you like to see?
A ventriloquist and their dummy, but they get along.
That was, wasn't that, Mr. Rourke and Tattoo?
Okay. Is that Fantasy Island material?
Yes, it was.
Please, I told you a long time ago when we filled up.
Guys.
Hey, guys.
We're podcasting here.
Hey. That's right. That's what they do. It's mayhem. I've sent over 2 dogs.
What?
That's right. 2 dogs. What?
You sent things?
Dogs.
Things?
Dogs.
Things?
That's what I do. I'm mayhem. You're trying to do your podcast, and I've interrupted it. Now, it probably would have been better for me to do something more drastic, but that's what I do. It's mayhem.
It's a low-level mayhem.
Low-level mayhem. See? I told you if you let me go
There's a very high deductible on this mayhem.
I don't understand. Who is not getting covered on their insurance for that? Who's going, okay, now you want the insurance for if it's hurt a regular way? You don't want like a crazy man, lunatic? Do you want the lunatic insurance? What are they saying, Josh? If I got a brand new car and I didn't include someone coming up and going, hey.
They're saying the world is against you, Andy. They're saying the world is set up to make your life inconvenient. And that entire idea is embodied in one now wealthy actor's face.
Yes, and the businesses can kick my ass. This is my new character. The business can kick my ass.
Kick or kiss?
Kiss my ass.
Okay.
And kick my ass.
Yeah.
I like it. The character is someone who thinks there is a business and he's still in it. You know how the business chews you up. Hasn't had an audition in 40 years. What are you talking about, Andy?
All right, so we have a great show tonight.
We're so excited about it.
It's the first time I've ever said that and meant it, knowing that we actually have a great show, because we have, after 117 shows, a guest here at Thought Spiral. TV's Josh Mankiewicz joined us in our spiral here yesterday, and I think it went well.
A good time was had by all three of us. I mean, I was a little, because I wanted him to have a good time. So sometimes that can go wrong. Right. But it was fantastic.
Hey, how about giving us a little transition music into this interview?
Oh, sure. You want some?
Sure. And we'll be back in an hour and change. I'm going to fade it out as soon as it stops being funny. So
we'll be right back. I can't do it. I have no will to do it. Well, you do a sting. Why? You're more musical than I am. Do a sting for me. Roxanne. No. You have to put on the red light.
All right. So are we on?
Yeah, we're on. We do a soft start here on the show.
Yeah, it's a soft
launch.
Yeah.
Are you going to tell him to work the mic closer? Because I wouldn't be able to do that.
Do you want me to like
as much as you can eat it?
All right,
the better.
fine, sure.
As much of OCD, can you release that lower thing?
Yes.
Oh my God!
Wow!
Oh,
right.
That would have been horrible.
Who's down with OCD? Yeah, yeah.
So this is a very exciting thought spiral episode because you are, in fact, after 116 shows,
I can't believe
our first guest.
It's just so I'm nervous, aren't you?
Yeah, a little bit.
You guys have done 116 shows and you've never had a guest?
We have not. We had that much to say, Josh.
I have to say, I am nothing short of honored. I really am.
Josh,
yay!
For those of you who don't recognize the voice already, Josh MANKIEWICZ of Dateline, NBC, and so many other media fames is here.
Yes.
Our first guest, not Joel Madison.
That's right.
Sorry, Joel.
That's right.
I like when I can make something mean, too.
We had always said our friend Joel Madison was going to be our first guest, but he stopped listening. So.
Right. So, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that was part of the story.
Exactly.
It's good when you can turn a happy occasion into attacking someone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's my whole thing.
Right.
So in the spirit of our show, let's start off with asking, do you have any medical issues you'd like to address?
No. Okay, At the moment, I'm reasonably healthy.
Okay, that's excellent. We often have old Jew medical corner here on the show. So
I am on 40 milligrams of Prozac. I took Adderall at age 50. I didn't get into therapy till I was 59. They've heard the whole thing.
That's good.
Also, this is, I think, the first time you've ever been an interviewer.
That's going to be a very sad thing that I hope we can keep out of the papers.
Yeah. The only tip I gave Andy was resist the temptation to jump on your version of the same thing that the guest is talking about.
Okay.
And my wife would like that too, because she constantly is trying to tell me something and I will start filling it in and I'm wrong 95% of the time.
Right.
So you said as you came in, you've been on the road.
Oh yeah.
Where have the murders taken you?
I go to all the best places. Bill Hader, who you probably know, but I don't.
Really?
Does this fabulous imitation of all the people on Dateline, including me. And part of his imitation is that I am always in the tropics somewhere on a murder, right? And part of his bit is that I say, a murder in Tierra del Fuego, I'm on that, right? That is, it's funny. I don't want him to stop. In fact, I want him to do that imitation everywhere. Particularly, I want him to do it as many times as he can on Kimmel, because I can only imagine how happy that makes 2020. But that was my first thought.
I never even thought of
that. Was my first thought was that they're going to hate this, right? Yeah. So,
that's an alma mater of yours, isn't it?
Well, you were ABC, but a long time ago. Right. Yeah. Back before either of you were born. So certainly before you were in therapy. It's definitely longer ago than that.
Right, but our age is so close that it's frightening.
I know, it is.
It's not frightening. I'm not worried about getting older, even though I talk about it every minute of the day.
Right, sure. Why would you be? Yeah,
no different than it's ever been.
Me either. So sadly, I am not in Aruba every time I turn around.
I love the way you said Aruba.
I know. Keith has done numerous stories in the tropics. He's done, that Natalie Holloway thing that took everybody to Aruba a bunch of times, but not me. I wasn't on that.
No.
So I've spent a great deal of time lately in, Royce City, Texas.
Wow.
Which I know that you guys.
They have a great Four Seasons.
Oh,
there, right?
The greatest.
I have literally not heard that. I've heard of Amarillo, so it's smaller than Amarillo.
It is smaller than Amarillo. It's about 30 miles outside Dallas. It was a small town for a very long time, and now because of urban sprawl, it's actually become a suburb of Dallas, sort of.
So there's a DoubleTree.
So there's a
towards Six Mountains, towards Six Flags.
Yeah, there's no. I don't think there's a Six Flags. I think there's a there's definitely there's a Hampton Inn. Yeah, that they have. So I've been in Royce City, and I've been in Houston, and I've been in Bay Village, Ohio, which is where Sam Shepard, where Mrs. Sam Shepard,
is this like a Dateline classic?
Met her maker. No, actually, our story actually has nothing to do with that. It's about a different crime that
I thought it was. I went with Sam Shepard, who just passed away, the great actor playwright.
No,
and I was wrong again.
No, this is Dateline. This is Dateline. We would not be on a story about a great playwright unless he
did
murdered.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure they have.
Right. But no, this was Sam Shepard, the Cleveland osteopath whose story was the basis for The Fugitive.
Right.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. He claimed, not that a one-armed man had actually killed his wife, but that he had surprised a bushy-haired intruder. And that phrase got into the lexicon.
Later, Jeffrey McDonald adopted that. I've gone 85 ways on that.
This is good. Yeah.
85 ways, although I think he's guilty. And of course, don't go by me. I don't know much.
Right. Well, all right.
Put my hunch in. Hey, I'm sure you've been dying to hear what my hunches are about all these cases.
Well, I'm here, aren't I? I mean, that's. Yeah.
In many ways, I'm glad my wife is out of town right now, and so
I really wanted to meet her.
You did meet her at Mark.
I know.
Thompson,
I know. Yeah.
And she was disappointed that she couldn't go murder groupie on you.
I remember that. So yeah, I've been in small town America, doing Dateline stories.
So what brings out more dread in you, a bad story or a bad city?
Well, you can always, first of all, I love going to Texas because although it's crazy hot these days.
A lot of beef.
There's a lot of beef and there's a lot of barbecue, and that's all fabulous. Like it's everywhere, which is wonderful. So I like that. We don't actually have a lot of bad stories because, we're sort of able to pick and choose.
That's right.
So generally, stories in which I'm going to take it as a given that everybody in your audience has seen Dateline.
That's right. If not, please pause and watch 30 episodes.
Right. Exactly. Right. Then come back. Right.
It's in our DNA. They literally found it in our DNA.
Right.
Dateline.
So, stories in which the guilty party ends up being the person who was, the only suspect, right? Those are very hard stories to tell.
Right.
We don't do a lot of those stories. We generally do stories where there's some arc and some back and forth. And, the template is, basically a Law and Order script, except it's real life, which is, you meet somebody, they get killed, you find out some things about them. You find out where the investigation is going. It's pointing one way. That's pointing another way. Oh, guess what? It's the next door neighbor. Good night. That's the perfect Dateline story.
Right. And the perfect one for you is the one that sort of made waves locally, but didn't make the national radar.
Right. Exactly. Time. Right. Because if everybody knows how this comes out, it's tougher to do.
Right.
That's right.
I don't find, the thing is, J. Elvis is much more analytical. So I've seen probably 1,000 Datelines, and I still get every single time when they start in, it was a lovely day and finger painting and,
they had a storybook marriage.
I go right into that. I feel it. I still, and I almost, not that I never, but I don't go looking for who I think it might be the person.
Oh, really?
Because then I would be, it would be no joy for me. And it's not like Law and Order, which I think is more predictable.
Well, it's a different kind of storytelling in that, the whole thing is storytelling.
It is all storytelling. And there's sort of two parts to every Dateline. We always draw a very clear line between the storytelling, which is a lot of fun. Like, when you are interviewing somebody who's locked up, but you figure out a way to make them look like they're not locked up. Like
Oh, yes, exactly.
Some of these prisons will let you put other clothes on, let you dress people normally.
Not always orange peeking out.
Right.
And that's a gift because then it's a reveal.
Right. Because then you don't know that person is in custody. But that part of it is fun. But on the other side of the line from the storytelling is the story. That's not fun. Those are always deadly serious and awful, and it's the worst thing that happened to whoever it is you're talking to.
Right.
Yeah, and so that part of it, we take very, very seriously.
Yeah, I would think. That there's what I learned as a documentarian is that people do want to tell their stories on camera.
That's right.
I learned that very quickly.
That's exactly right.
There's a kind of honesty that you almost don't get when there isn't a camera from people, it seems like. And
that's why people are on Dateline. I mean, most of these stories are not ones that made the national news. They maybe got covered locally. Maybe they didn't even get covered locally except for a couple of articles in the newspaper. And we're going to be it certainly didn't get covered for an hour on TV.
Right.
Or 2 hours. And so in many cases, like the Dateline story is how most people are going to learn about who this person was. And if you don't care about the person, if you don't care about the story, then you're not going to care about the storytelling.
Right.
And
I assume that you must do much longer interviews than you need to just to make the person feel like their whole story is getting said out loud, even when you need to soundbite.
That is true. Although sometimes, these interviews with the families, all interviews on Dateline are easily 2-3 hours long. And and sometimes they're longer than that, depending on how convoluted the story is. And, in a lot of cases, you just want people to talk because although you hear the story in the first half hour and you think, okay, I can use this and I can use this, we're fine, right?
Right.
Like, if people keep talking, frequently you get much better stuff.
Right.
Because you feel closer to them and they to you. And, it's the reason why all these years later I'm still in touch with a bunch of those people.
And if not, you say the soundbite and have them go, yes.
Worst comes to worst. Yeah. When this happens less with families than it does with people involved in the internal machinations of the criminal justice system.
Right.
Less happens. Generally, the families and people involved in the story like that, they want to participate. Every now and then, as he's saying, you have to do it for them, which is, so you heard a noise. And you went outside. Right. You didn't see anything. I did not. So you called the police. Yeah. And they didn't come. Because what? They didn't take you seriously? I guess not. There you go.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, but you've never done a thing where you've done the William Hurt kind of cry the second time?
I've never done that. No, I don't think I've ever cried on camera. I come close a couple of times, but believe me, it was the real thing.
You have a unique countenance, which is both very sort of you have a very good compassion/journalist look.
Well, you have to strike some balance. I mean, these people are telling you horrible, wrenching stories. So you can't start crying when they start crying. I mean, you have to maintain some distance.
That's a hard job. That would be a very hard job.
You have to subtly give them, it's okay that you're crying.
Right. On the other hand, it can't be like, hey, I got a story to do here. You can't do that either. Right. So there's something in between.
I think that the fact that you always show, this is going to be hard to say. I mean, I'm such a huge fan of the show that it's going to be hard to not sound like I'm a huge fan of the show, but I have never felt
play the card. It's okay.
But I've never felt like anything where you're trying to get them or it's always from empathy because there's no, the thing about, like I watch some IDHD and I get it sometimes, but I don't need to see an orgy of murder. You know what I mean? It's like the balance between the horrible stuff that happened and the story to me is perfect. And that's why I've watched about 20,000 of them.
We're not looking for the bloodiest story or the scariest story. I mean, we don't do a lot of stories about sex crimes or stories in which kids are the victims. The audience don't want to see that. People change the channel in a lot of cases. It's unusual. I'm working on a story now in which a child is the victim. I can't remember the last time we did that. It's unusual. We're looking for stories not that are the bloodiest or the goriest, but ones that sort of tell stories about relationships, because that's really what Dateline's about. I mean, most people are never the victim of violent crime, but everybody's been in relationships that went the wrong way.
Right. Yeah. That's the on-ramp for a lot of people.
Yeah.
I'm so glad I left him.
Right. Exactly. Right.
And as a person who suffers with OCD, it has been the greatest show for me because it shows, like, I've been in comedy clubs and I've literally said to the person, like I'm with, if my wife died and the cops want to speak to me, would you say that I should, I'm asking these people, it's like, cause I'm oversharing and I'm going into these things. It's like, and it's like, it's literally, I can see every which way that people answer when they get like all nervous. Like, you're accusing me now, and it's just like, on the one hand, it's could be bad for me OCD wise, but on the other hand, I always at the end go, look, I'm not in jail. I'm doing okay.
Yet. Yeah.
It's the weird sort of there, but for the grace of God go I approach for Andy. It's like, well, at least I'm not the accused suspect.
I'm not locked up like that guy. Yeah.
Yeah, because my whole thing is like, doesn't matter whether I did it. I figured out the therapy. It's not about whether I did it or not. It's that I think I'm guilty of something.
You
feel guilty. Yeah.
Do you feel like after almost 25 years now on Dateline?
Yeah, almost. February will be 25.
And how many, I mean, when did it switch over to full murder?
We started in like 2006, I'm going to say, something like that.
So a dozen years of like full-time murder. Do you feel like something in you has died away itself?
No.
In doing any of that?
I didn't want to do the murders when we started doing them.
Yeah.
I'd been a political reporter before, and I liked doing all kinds of stories at Dateline, because we were doing like 3 or 4 different stories a night. They were unrelated. Some were pop culture, some were investigative, some were profiles, some were just interesting stories that you never heard of. And I thought that I liked that. And I wasn't super interested in doing crime. And then I started doing them. And I did one in Reno, and it came out. It was an interesting story, and it was the story of this of a young woman who was killed probably by accident by a guy who was probably just trying to sexually assault her and killed her in the process, and did not, because he raped other women and they were alive, and this was probably accidental. And it was unsolved when we first did it, and then we followed it all the way to the end, and it was solved, and we watched. This guy's girlfriend turned him in because the cops put out a bunch of details about what they knew about the guy and what about his truck and a few other things, some things that were in the truck that were distinctive, and this guy's girlfriend, basically dimed him out. And so we saw their confrontation in the interview room. The cops let her in to talk to him, and that was all on videotape. And so I suddenly stopped thinking of these as crime dramas, and I started thinking of them as these incredible sort of just human, emotional dramas that tell you everything about who people really are.
Right.
And then I was kind of hooked, and I think the audience was too.
Well, like Josh can tell you forever, I'm hooked on true crime things, and I'm that's why I know that everything I say after I say it, I go, you are the most simplistic human being in the world. But the thing is, I can't watch anything except for Columbo's and things that I love, where I love the shows. I can't watch anything but true crime. I can't watch any Law and Orders since I got into true crime.
Really?
Because I mean, there are some great cop shows that, like, I think Homicide on the Streets or whatever. I mean, Law and Order I love because I love the people on it and all that stuff. But
I can't believe NBC let that go. I mean, it should still be on.
Yeah, but it's like, I need the real stuff. And it's scary sometimes because, again, if anything happens to anybody around me, they're going to go, why was he so into true crime podcasts?
Okay. I realize that it's good to always have a voice in your head judging you.
Oh, no, I do.
But I don't think that when something happens, an interesting true crime podcast is going to come off as suspicious to police. I don't
take that to heart. Let that in, Andy. Let that in.
Yeah, I think you're safe. Yeah.
I don't think I'm safe because it goes beyond that. Look, they can't save me from me, Josh.
Look, there are people who stop me in airports and say, hi. I'm like, hey, how you doing? They go, I got to ask you something. I'm like, okay. Now I'm ready for, what's Keith really like? That's usually right?
Melodramatic.
Right. But sometimes the question is, why didn't the Modesto cops use luminol at that second crime scene? I'm like, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I'm like, which episode is this? And they say, about the guy who killed his wife.
Oh,
like,
no.
I will need a little more than this.
I have people quoting me jokes from 1989 that came out of my puppet on Mystery Science.
Yeah. So, I mean, they're into it. They're really into it. They are really into it.
I'm looking forward to being recognized, and I think it's going to be a wonderful experience for me outside of Everybody Loves Raymond. And I look forward to getting bored by their – not that you're bored, but
I'm always thrilled. I'm always astonished that people not just watch, but they watch as closely as they do.
Oh, well, because that's the thing that it fits in. Here's the thing that you can't control, is that people, when they see you, they are immediately immersed into this experience that they have, which I have too, which is like, it's just like in those first moments where you go, what a wonderful fishing village, and the trees are not every single time. It's like a Pavlov's whatever. And to me, I just need that whole thing in my life. And as I say, maybe you're going to play something about one thing?
Well, with a segue like that.
Not now. But I can't watch regular news anymore, ever.
Really?
Ever.
That segues perfectly into Andy's bit about Dateline from his State of the Industry address last week.
It was his idea. I don't promote myself, as we all know.
All right, here it is.
My wife and I hate Trump so much that we can't watch him on TV. I know a lot of you like to watch him on TV, but he makes me sick. We prefer to watch a Dateline where a mother drives her whole family off a cliff to their death. Just to take the edge off. Just to relax a little bit. Just to feel good for a while. I mean, this is bad, but look what we got. I love in Dateline how people in small towns can't believe there could ever be a murder. You know, in Youngburg, Ohio, they never had murders in such a small town. What does that get? You can have two people and they're going to murder each other, I'll tell you that. And we like to leave our doors open at night and our wallets on the front lawn. You deserve to get murdered. And I'd like to see one Dateline start out with, nobody liked Angela. She was a horrible human being. There really was nothing redemptive about her. Who wouldn't want to kill her?
You can see even as it goes on that if I got booked at a Dateline convention, I would kill.
Which you should. Which you should come to CrimeCon next year.
My God.
Is CrimeCon the big one?
Oh, yeah, it's great.
Oh,
It's great.
kept me going.
No, it's really something.
We're the same place every year?
No, it was in New Orleans this year. Now it's in Orlando next year, I think.
Ooh.
Yeah.
It's on the lamb.
Nice.
I wish I could redo. See, if I did that, we'd have a whole different dynamic.
Yeah, it's true.
He has gravitas.
He does, absolutely.
When he says nice.
I actually want to speak about your family gravitas.
Oh, all right. First of all, thank you for doing a Dateline bit. I love that. I didn't know
that makes
that.
me
I
happy.
love that so much. You should come to CrimeCon, by the way.
Is it a tiresome topic to talk about your family gravitas?
No,
Okay.
it's fine.
So
Sure.
just the quick fill in is, we'll start with your grandfather,
Okay.
Herman Mankiewicz, who co-wrote Citizen Kane.
Yes.
As his probably crowning
Right.
jewel
Or
achievement.
wrote it, depending on who you talk
Right,
to.
depending on, yes. And won an Oscar for it as
Yes.
well.
And didn't go.
And did not go. I read a story about everyone going, where's Mank?
Yeah.
Where's Mank?
Yeah, didn't go. Didn't think he was going to win.
And that was because he was afraid of Hearst. He thought the fear of Hearst would keep it from winning.
You know, Hearst had gone to war against Citizen Kane and had told newspapers that, his newspapers told movie theaters, if you show this movie, we won't take your advertising. Which was like the only way anybody was ever going to know what was at the movies. So, I mean, it was very hard to see that movie when it came out. My grandfather and Wells, rented like barns and warehouses and places like that to show it so that it would be eligible for the Oscars.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Hearst had a lot of power, and he didn't like the film. Now, interestingly, all these years later, there was a screening of Citizen Kane about 3 or 4 years ago, at San Simeon.
Really?
Because, the Hearst family now and we've all sort of made peace, and they were, Steve Hearst was, instrumental in doing that. And my brother, who's a host for, Turner Classic Movies, went up there and introduced it, and it was very nice.
Oh, wow.
That's a great thing. Yeah.
It was very nice to see all that happen.
Very Hatfield and McCoy kind of.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
That's great. And so he was, and he was a Algonquin Roundtable frequenter.
He'd been the drama critic in the New York Times, and he'd helped, I think helped George Kaufman with the New Yorker, and,
Alexander Walcott called him the funniest man in New York.
Yeah. He was clearly a very, very funny guy. He was also like jammed full of self-hatred.
And booze.
And alcohol. Yeah. One, I think, because of the other. And he basically drank himself to death. I mean, he wasn't even the age I am now. He was, I think, 56 when he died. And that was part of his legend was this beloved, incredibly talented, he was
sad drunk. Though.
Yeah. I didn't know him. He was, I'm sorry I didn't, but his own excesses in the distilled spirits industry, got to him before I did. Really funny, really smart, lot of fun. Everybody says that. Some legendary, one-liners through the years and some fabulous scripts. I don't understand why he saw, succeeding in Hollywood as being a sellout, but he did.
Well, there was a quote I read of him encouraging his fellow New York writers to come out and go, there's millions to be made out here because the competition are all idiots.
He said it's a telegram to Ben Hecht. He said, get out here immediately. There are millions to be grabbed, and your only competition is fools and idiots. P.S. Don't let this get around.
No. Yeah. Well, that hasn't changed so much.
No. I'm sorry he didn't feel like the success that he clearly was. There's a movie coming out about him.
Really?
This just got announced about a few weeks ago. David Fincher, his father was a screenwriter and wrote a screenplay called Mank, based on a book about I'm pretty sure it's based on a book about my grandfather by the same name, which came out, I think, in the late 70s or early 80s, kind of a biography of him. And I think they bought the rights to that and wrote a script about it. And it's sort of about what we've been talking about how, talented yet self-destructive he was. And this script's been around for a while, because I saw it somebody gave me a copy of it many, many years ago. The plan was originally, I remember hearing this. I mean, we have nothing to do with this, but as a family, but I remember hearing at the time that the plan right after Fincher came out with Seven was they were going to do Mank, and Kevin Spacey was going to play Herman.
Oh, okay.
And then for whatever reason back then that fell apart. And then I sort of just lost track of it. I thought it was never going to be made, but they just announced, it's going to be made, later this year, I think. And, Gary Oldman is going to play Herman. So
that's going to be cool.
It's for Netflix, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
If they can do Trumbo, they can do Mank.
Right. Exactly. Right.
And Kindler.
And his brother was his younger brother?
Younger brother, much
Joseph,
younger, like 12 years younger.
Who directed All About Eve and Cleopatra,
right.
And also just a giant Hollywood.
Oh yeah, legend. No. And him and Joe I did know. He was a lot of fun.
Was he?
Yeah.
And his kids were screenwriters too, yeah?
Both of his sons were in the movie industry. One of them's gone, the other one's still here and still is in the movie industry.
So along comes your father into this thing. Which
my dad grew up in Beverly Hills, in the sort of palatial section of Beverly Hills, and I think was told from very early on by his dad that the movie business was not a place for serious people to make a living, and that it was you were wasting your time. And so my dad was a journalist for a while, and then he went to law school, and then he was practicing law in Beverly Hills. He represented Jay Silverheels, who played Tonto on The Lone Ranger. He represented James Mason, who
he has a very a beloved place.
Right, that's good. It was right after Lolita came out, and
a bubble of poison in my loins, Lolita.
That's very good.
Yeah, but what's the movie that we're quoting him from?
But when you know him as, "Hello, Mank, I'm in trouble."
Yeah. I remember him from The Verdict, right? When I walk out that door, the offer is withdrawn, right? Yeah, and so he was one of the clients, and my dad used to represent not Clint Eastwood.
Steve McQueen, you said.
McQueen. Yes, but not as an entertainment attorney. He used to represent McQueen in traffic court.
Man.
Because in those days, if you drove too fast in Los Angeles or in California, you could get locked up for like seriously exceeding the speed limit. And so McQueen was constantly getting put behind bars for McQueen had a thing where he liked to go 101 on the 101. And that would get you pulled over. And
didn't they just make I saw a documentary about him killing somebody on the set of, what was that famous movie with the racing?
Bullet?
No, Grand Prix or.
Right.
Yeah, I thought everyone knew this. That
I don't know.
Someone got killed.
No, that was.
Someone got killed or almost killed. Or
Grand Prix or Le Mans, was it?
Well, you're asking, I'm so embarrassed that I don't know it, but I think it's one of the two.
Yeah. And yeah, he loved driving fast and he would get locked up for it. And my dad would go down and like bail him out. And it was all because of the great thing about that story is that the calculus is that the studio, this was when McQueen was on Wanted, Dead or Alive and was not a great big star. He was very much sort of an up and coming actor. And the studio, whoever produced Wanted, Dead or Alive had run the numbers and they had decided that it was cheaper to hire my dad to get McQueen out of the slam every now and then than to hire McQueen a driver. That was too expensive.
Costed it out.
Yeah.
That's so great.
And so that's what my dad was doing when he finally sort of got bitten by the desire to go into public service, and he went in the Peace Corps, and we went to South America, and that's how he, through the Peace Corps, he met Robert Kennedy, and then he went into politics himself.
And he was Kennedy's press secretary during his campaign.
He was.
In 68.
Yep.
And was sort of famously the person who announced his death.
Every documentary about Bobby has my dad announcing his death. Yeah.
And so it was through the Peace Corps that he got into Kennedyville.
Yeah, because Sergeant Shriver was the first director of the Peace Corps, and I think Kennedy wanted to take a trip to Latin America and asked Shriver if there was somebody who could brief him. And so Shriver assigned my dad, and that's how they met. And then my dad, had a background in journalism, so when Kennedy was looking for a press secretary, I think that was a good fit.
So your dad, and I know he passed away a few years ago, and which I saw at that point, I got to read, some very fleshed out obits about him, and he's just greatest generation badass.
What a life. Yeah.
To run down for our audience, he fought at the Battle of the Bulge. He was in the Peace Corps. He was RFK's press secretary. He was George McGovern's campaign manager. He was the head of NPR.
He was a syndicated columnist for the Washington Post. He worked for the Anti-Defamation League.
Oh my God.
And then at the end, I'm missing a couple of things. He was a local news anchor in Washington.
Was he really?
Yeah, for a little while. And then right at the end, when a lot of people were thinking about retiring, he had a 30-year career in public relations.
Wow.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. And also, I read, as an interesting side note, helped kill the metric system in America.
Oh, yes, of which he was tremendously proud.
Sounds like it.
Yeah. He and Lynn Nofziger, who'd been Reagan's press secretary.
I remember Lynn.
Somehow got it in their heads that they wanted to do away with the metric system. Jimmy Carter was president then and was considering.
I remember as a kid that was looming. They were teaching us in school.
They had a commission about.
He was pro-metric, Jimmy, or we don't know?
I think.
I can't believe I just said a sentence like that. Jimmy was pro-metric? Or we're not sure.
We don't know because I don't think it ever got that far. But there was a commission designed to, it was under Reagan and not Carter, or it began under Carter, and then I think Nofziger, after Reagan got in, sort of helped kill that.
Okay. Wasn't that Reagan-Nixon conversation that I recently heard, though, right?
No, it was not. Unconnected to that, I don't think.
Boy, oh boy. I guess my suspicions my whole life about the GOP might turn out to be right.
You think?
And I was thinking so fondly of him.
Well, this is another interesting thing about your family. You are one of the few families, I bet, to have been your grandfather banned by the Nazis, his films.
That's right.
Your father on Nixon's enemies list.
Right.
So I think it's on either you or Ben to at least get blocked on Twitter by Trump.
Yeah, I don't think that's, I've been blocked by William Shatner.
Okay.
Me too.
Right?
Me too. That's the greatest thing. That's
it really
what a
doesn't
bonding-
take much.
Oh my God. He got me mad when he blocked me too.
Yeah,
Set your skin to thin, Mr. Spock.
How dare you? How dare you make fun of my daughter's charity? It was like, he goes, who wants to work for my daughter's charity tomorrow? And I said, how much does it pay? Charity. And he's like, how dare you?
I don't even know. I can't remember any interaction with him. I definitely never spoke to him on Twitter. I think that this has to do with something that I must have said that somebody else retweeted or something that he didn't like. Yeah.
So was there, I mean, it seems like, and your mother was, first of all, interestingly named Holly Jolly.
My mom grew up with the name Holly Jolly. Yeah.
I can't even believe that's
Right? I mean,
and a Mormon, yes?
and she grew up Mormon, although she left the church when she was probably 21 or maybe even a little bit younger.
Okay.
Yeah, I can only imagine what scars would grow up. You know, here's the weird thing is my grandmother grew up Holly Howell, then married Harry Jolly. So she was Holly Jolly.
Really?
Yeah, but as an adult, as a married woman, it apparently never occurred to my grandmother that, like, being a kid and being named Holly Jolly was going to be a little different than being an adult and being named Holly Jolly.
Right.
And so my mom, like, got tortured her whole life for having this name.
Yeah.
And when she was at the UCLA, people would set up blind dates just so they could say, Holly Jolly, Raymond Shaman. And then they'd laugh.
Now that was a simpler time.
Yeah, it was. So there was a cleaner time in America. Yeah.
So was there, I mean, I'm getting psychological here, but I mean, having a dad like that, there's got to be some pressure to achieve, especially being firstborn and.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's always been pressure to achieve in this family. You know, my cousin Tom, who's no longer around, decided for whatever reason to go into exactly the same line of work that his father had. He was a film director and screenwriter, just as Joe Mankiewicz was. And Joe Mankiewicz, who was a sensational writer and director, possibly not the greatest parent ever, I think probably didn't do his kids any favors with that.
Right.
I mean, I think Tom Mankiewicz, you know, who wrote Bond films and Superman films and a lot of other things, directed Dragnet with Aykroyd and Tom Hanks.
Which is a funny movie.
Yeah. I'm sure Tom made probably more money than all other Mankiewiczes added together. But, you know, I mean, what a shadow to try to step out of.
Right.
So, I mean, the thing about my brother and I is that we sort of didn't go into, you know, our dad's exact business.
Right.
And we stayed out of politics. And both of us did something that nobody else in our family did, which is actually speak the words that we write as opposed to write them for someone else.
Right.
Oh, that's cool.
So in a way that sort of helped. Yeah. I mean, is there pressure to achieve? Sure. But there would have been if I'd decided to be a longshoreman, which I nearly did before I realized it involved lifting heavy things.
Right.
It wasn't like on the waterfront.
No, but I thought that like working near the ocean would be good.
I don't know about you, but Jones Beach, when I was a kid, you can't get a nicer, less crowded. You enjoy the water,
Yeah.
and you enjoy people from Queens. Check out Jones Beach.
Which I do in both cases.
I do too, but I didn't enjoy Jones Beach
And you-
as a child.
I was a Long Island correspondent for 2.5 years, so I spent a lot of time out there.
Wow.
Yeah, I was at Channel 2 in New York.
We are so much the same age that I'm older. No, we are the same age, virtually the same age. So it's like, and I'm not going
He
to do
wants
this.
to say he's a little younger is what he wants
No,
to
I'm
say.
no, I'm not going to say this.
Say it.
But my mind is fascinated because I'm old enough to remember when Bobby Kennedy was shot, and it was like I remembered. Obviously, I just want to let you know this. I was not related to the family in any way in Queens.
Mm-hmm.
We had no connection. But I remember Richard Yacenda's mother saying when he first got shot, I guess he was
Yeah, he got shot late on the night of June 4th, and he sort of lived all the way through the 5th, and then early in the 6th, he died.
I remember her saying, I'm not going to vote for him even if he gets better. And I thought that was the weirdest. It was like like a weird reaction in the moment. It's just like, I don't know why it stuck out, but I think everybody was so freaked out.
I'm not going to vote for him unless he gets better.
No.
In other words, she was saying she had pinned all her hopes on him to be the president, right? And she was saying, even if he gets better now, no matter what happens to him now, before he was pronounced dead.
Gotcha.
I don't tell good stories.
No,
but before he was pronounced dead, he's like, well, even if he got better now, I wouldn't vote for him. I just think it's the oddest thing in the world that you're thinking in that moment, but because I think it was her hero and so many people's hero.
Yeah, I mean, I remember that day when she was being kept alive. And of course, I hadn't talked to my dad during that time. He was in LA and we were in DC. But, yeah, I remember thinking that maybe there was like some way that he was going to get better. Of course, now we know what we know about, people getting shot in the head. Like that generally does not turn out well. But I remember at the time hoping the same thing. Like, well, maybe he'll heal up.
Right. Couldn't happen twice in the,
Right.
What did you meet him much?
Oh yeah. I met him like 5 or 6 times. He was magnetic.
Was he?
Yeah. He was really like a movie star. I mean, he really was charismatic. He was very shy and soft spoken and spoke literally in a very soft voice all the time. Really handsome, good looking. I remember him always tan. I took a flight across the country with him and my dad once, and he took his tie off and he tied it around his head like an eye mask and used that to go to sleep. Yeah.
That's gritty.
It's a good Robert Kennedy story. Yeah.
And so you started in print in DC?
No, I started, my first job in journalism was, I started working for ABC News in the Washington Bureau in the summers. Okay. That was in 1975. I was a sophomore in college then. And I was already pretty into this business, although I hadn't worked in it up to that point. But I was already pretty interested in TV journalism. Cause I mean, I kind of grown up around it a little bit, and we watched Walter Cronkite every night at dinner when I was growing up from the time I was like 8 or 9 years old until I moved out of the house. And then it was clear they were still watching. I mean, I watched it every night in college, and we'd watch it at dinner while we were eating. No one would say anything.
Really?
Yes. Wow. And then afterwards there'd be a little discussion about what we had just learned. Huh. And so I saw, Vietnam and the civil rights movement and the space program and Watergate, all that sort of unfold in the dining room every night. So it was a easy call for me to be interested in this business. And so I started working for ABC in the summer of 1975. Then I came back to them after I graduated from college. Then Carl Bernstein, which no one remembers, was briefly in TV as the bureau chief of ABC in Washington.
I don't remember that.
Roone Arledge hired him off the Washington Post because he was like one of the 2 most famous journalists in the world.
Right.
And Roone liked hiring people like that.
What was he like on the air?
Well, he was okay on the air. He was not good in a managerial role as Washington bureau chief, which involves all kinds of stuff that Carl had never done before. And one of the few things that Carl did do was get it in his head that I should be on television. And so he called the guy who owned the Washington, D.C. affiliate of ABC and said, I want you to put this guy on the air. We have a guy, I'm sending him over, and I want you to put him on TV. Like, no one was starting on television in the 8th market back in 1980, which was when this happened. And but again, like one of the most famous people in the country was calling him and saying, the guy said, he was a guy named Joe Albritton. He was a banker, and he just bought the station a couple of years earlier. And God bless him, he said okay. And the deal was, if it didn't work out at the end of a year, ABC would take me back. I was like a associate producer then. And, but it did work. And I was on the local news covering, fires and floods and the cops, and, Marion Barry was the mayor. He was pretty entertaining.
Oh my! It's like again, because you don't, Josh at this point was 3 years old and he was looking for a stick. Good night, everybody. Good night, everybody. He's sitting around. No, because I remember. I don't want to brag, but I went, and you're going to be just don't be insulted by this, but I went to the State University of New York at Binghamton.
Wow.
Okay. So when I say I know things, no, because I was out working at a Denny's in LA while you were doing that.
Right.
So it's just exciting to me to hear real things from people who've lived and experienced things that Josh just won't, he doesn't give it up for me. If I say Philo T. Farnsworth, nothing. I get nothing.
Don't know who that is. Yeah.
But Rufus T. Firefly, I'm there.
That on the other hand, yeah. So then then that's where it all began, was working for Channel 7 in Washington.
And do you, I mean, now you're kind of reporting on reporting in some ways with Dateline. Do you miss or do you have to, do you break, how often do you break new facts on something?
Every now and then, we'll unearth something that hasn't been out. But right, a lot of the stories we do, they've already been adjudicated.
Right.
Because in most cases, the cops and the prosecutors won't talk to you until it's already over. So we don't, I wish we did more cold cases, but the audience doesn't like it when we say at the end,
I know that.
Right. Who killed Andy? We don't know. Bye.
And do you think that, it seems to me
that angry at you many times.
That is the allure, the sweet candy of crime TV.
You find out the answer.
Is justice is served at the end,
exactly.
and you can go to bed.
Exactly. The system works.
Right.
Just that one time. All those other times, no.
Right. La 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 la. It's this one time.
Yeah, but that one time, that scoundrel gets what's coming to him.
I love how many times in an hour I will turn completely, like I should never be on the jury. I've been on a jury, but because I'm like, you know what? I think he's innocent. You know what? The other guy did it. Yeah. It's just like I can switch so fast. And you know what I mean? So
you're like the perfect viewer. That's exactly what we want. Exactly. That's exactly what we want. Yeah, he did it. No, we didn't. Wait, he did. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I I'm not that into murder stories that in true crime. My wife is wall to wall. But to me, and I don't mean to belittle your profession, but
it's about to happen.
Here it comes.
No, this
is what we do in our podcast. Even though we never had a guest.
Well, no, it's just, to me, like, murder is not what smart people do to solve their problems.
Well, that's definitely
you know
true.
what I mean? So yeah. I'm kind of more interested in.
Well, look, this program is not about praising murder.
No, of course not.
Are you think you're above murdering?
No. I'm fact. In fact, I'm feeling
too good to kill. Yeah. This is
I'm in touch with it weekly, Andy.
Yeah. Look, the thing about this, we're this program is certainly not about, praising or exalting people who do things like
that's not my point.
But you see in this also, stories of like incredible strength and perseverance and survival. And you also see, at a time when, there are plenty of stories about things in law enforcement that have not gone the way they were supposed to.
Right.
Innocent people getting killed or innocent people getting locked up. Dateline is really sort of about the best in law enforcement, about, the guys who take the file home on the weekend and read it.
And I was wondering, because of that, I would assume you get a fair amount of cooperation from law enforcement.
Generally, yes, because they know that this is not some, thing to embarrass them, Right. But that said, I did a story last year in Ohio in which, I spent a lot of time in Ohio. But on the other hand, my ancestors invented the pierogi, so I guess it's good that I'm in Ohio.
They actually, this isn't like in Larry David where the guy said,
his people,
they're Polish. They're my ancestors in that sense. Yeah.
Because I'm going to check this out.
No, not like Uncle Dave, but yeah.
There's Citizen Kane, and then there's the pierogi.
Right.
Do I have to ask now? Is a pierogi? Well, I would enjoy a good pierogi.
Pierogi is like a potato dumpling.
Yeah, only if you would enjoy. Right, only if you would enjoy cheese wrapped in pasta, fried in butter. Yeah, then you might like it. They're insane. So I did a story in Ohio in which there was a terrible murder and of a young mom. And the cops thought they knew who it was, and they went at these people very hard. These are people who might possibly have been her weed dealers. We weren't quite sure what their relationship was, but they certainly, the cops certainly believed that there was something there. And they made these folks' lives quite miserable for a long time. And it turned out like they had nothing to do with it.
Really?
And the cop, the guy who led that investigation and pointed law enforcement at these three people, all of at least one of whom had like a serious criminal record, and that sort of fit with what they thought, even though he didn't really have any kind of violent offenses like what he was being accused of here. That cop ended up losing his job, and he went to jail.
Wow.
For doing that. So, I mean, do we ever cover that kind of thing? Yeah, it's rare though. Generally, this is about, the sort of obsessive nature of some detectives who will not let stories go. Joseph Wambaugh, famous for saying,
he won the Onion Fields, right?
Yes. And the Blue Knight and the New Centurions. And he's sort of in a lot of cases, the progenitor of modern crime fiction. I mean, he's the guy that inspired Michael Connelly, who's now, on fire and has been for years.
I don't know that Michael Connelly.
Michael Connelly has a detective named Harry Bosch, and there's a wonderful series on Amazon called Bosch about an LAPD detective.
Okay, I'll see you in 3 years.
No. And start on the Bosch novels. You'll be very happy. Michael Connelly is the author, and Joseph Wambaugh notably said that the stories that interested him the most were not the stories about how the cops worked on the cases, but about how the cases worked on the cops.
Wow.
And that's also absolutely true for us.
Yeah. Well, the other thing that's
why I was asking if you feel like you've changed at all through this constant contact with this kind of sorrow.
I certainly understand the criminal justice system better than I did before. It's been kind of an education. Virtually anybody who bumps up against the criminal justice system who has any kind of personal experience, it's not the way it's portrayed on television. It's a lot slower and a lot more arbitrary and a lot more unfair and a lot more capricious. And also, if you have the money for a good private attorney, you're going to have a completely different experience than if you use a public defender.
Right.
Because as I think I've said more than once, if your attorney smells like Axe body spray, you are going to prison.
Well, I've been fascinated with this Curtis Flowers case, which is a guy he was tried 6 times by this white attorney general who blocked all these black people from the jury, and he won his Supreme Court case, and this guy's trying to try him a 7th time,
right?
And this is like the podcast I was involved with is when you listen back. Sometimes you can get caught up and you go, maybe, you never know what point of view you're watching. Mm-hmm. But this guy, they literally got people to say, yes, I did see him, but I never said I saw him the day of the murder. So they constructed this thing which was so flimsy, which you wouldn't even believe could ever have gone. But that's the way the criminal justice system was. And the fact that this podcast actually got this person on the edge of getting out is very exciting to me. But because the other thing I was going to say was the emotional things that people go through. This is why I think resonates with me is things in my family, I'm just looking at because I just got into therapy and I'm looking at abandonment issues and all these type of things. These shows really do make me think about those things in a way that I can deal with them. And, it's so on that level, I'm very fascinated by true crime now, though I know that sometimes it gets crazy, but why people are motivated and, those kind of things.
So what I'm taking from that is that you think Dateline's good for America's psyche.
I'm Andy Kindler. I don't know what you're doing.
Take that to the bank.
I don't know how your psyche is. Is your psyche just about destroyed? Well, that's because you haven't been watching Dateline. And yes, I do get $1 every time I say Dateline. That would be a bad deal.
Like you were saying, you're dealing with people at their talking about the worst moment of their life, which is why what you do is such a specialized skill, because you're guiding people
through
both the people who you're talking to on camera and the people watching. You're their intermediary between this dark place and their living room, and and you're really good at it.
Well, thank you. Thank you. But I mean, it's definitely different from what I sort of grew up doing in the news business, in which you're not. I mean, people have a story and you're just trying to get them to briefly explain it, and then you're putting that on the air along with, maybe the opposing view. Right. And now a minute and a half's gone by and you're out of time. Good night.
Right.
And I'm sure I'm fascinated by watching it because, and this is again, when I always admire a skill like I don't have, he knows it's very hard for me. I've learned how to listen maybe a little bit after a year, but the idea that you probably take it, I don't know if you do take it for granted or not. I took a sense of humor for granted, but just the idea that you can draw these things out in a real way is a skill that is probably, and having done it for so many years,
one of the things that I think sort of, sets us apart. I mean, a lot of people are doing this.
Right.
A lot of people are doing true crime. I mean, they're doing it in podcasts. A lot of other broadcasts are doing it. I think we're better at it. And I think that one of the things that's made us sort of the logo for that kind of programming is,
let's say, the gold standard.
Let's do that. Sure. I think we try and tell as much of the story in the back and forth of the interview as we can.
Right. So it's not Exposition Boulevard.
Right. So we're not just endlessly talking over picture.
Right.
And
just going out and coming back.
Yeah. And that's right. And that's a skill. And it's one I didn't have when I started here. I mean, I had to learn it. Everybody does.
Well, and like you and Keith Morrison started at the same time, but developed very different skills, very different styles.
Well, ways of doing it.
Well, my, oh my.
His is like old timey radio drama, and yours is reporter.
That's him. Yeah.
I did see it. You mentioned, Hader earlier on. I saw a video of him meeting Morrison.
Oh yeah.
And he was giddy with, like giddy, like
clearly,
a child.
Clearly, Bill Hader. I mean, he's not lying about that. He's obviously a big fan of Dateline, because he knew our staff who was there said that he knew everything about all the episodes.
He did. He was such a fanboy. It was amazing.
He was shooting something in New York, and he was doing some voiceover in New York, and it happened to be on the same editing floor that we use, and so they had Keith come by and say hi to him, which was, Keith is like very shy. So I'm sure that made him, very uncomfortable. But Hader was like thrilled. Yeah. And Hader knew everything about the story. Like they were updating some story. He's like, oh yeah. This is the guy who lived near the marina. His wife didn't go home one night. I mean, he had all the facts.
Why didn't they bring the blacklight back a second?
Exactly. Yeah.
I just saw a clip the other day. I put it on Twitter too, of Richard Pryor meeting Jerry Lewis on Merv Griffin show in the late 60s. And Richard Pryor was just like that with Jerry Lewis. He was like, Jerry Lewis comes out, he's a funny kid. And Richard Pryor, and this is before he's Richard Pryor. This was before he went off to San Francisco. So, but to see Richard Pryor in that childlike, he's the god of comedy, he says about Jerry Lewis. and he's just like, speechless. Because he's in Jerry Lewis's presence.
When very late in Jerry's life, somebody at Dateline passed along the fact that he was a big Dateline fan.
Really?
I mean, Jerry was. Apparently, he was home watching a lot of Dateline, and so they had me call him on his birthday.
It's the murder man on the phone.
I was like, this is like, first of all, this is going to be a practical joke, right? Like he's not in the Dateline. He's going to yell at me or something. But he was. We had a great conversation.
Fantastic.
Was that nerve-wracking? That would be nerve-wracking.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, like Jerry, it's Josh Mankiewicz from Dateline. I recognize your voice. Yeah.
Well, Seinfeld went to visit Jerry, like in that Seinfeld getting cards coffee thing. It was like, but it seemed like not too long before he passed away. Right. And Jerry's like, you've always been one of my heroes. Like, come on, Jerry, you could have visited slightly earlier, don't you think? You're my hero. So much a hero that I waited till you were 97.
And you're Jerry Seinfeld. I mean, like, you could have gotten into this.
Yeah, it's not like,
you had the clout for 25 years.
If I had only had the chance. That sounded like more like Shatner.
No, that's kind of both. It was good though. Yeah.
I was going to ask you just a selfish question. I've been on the road since 87, and I was on the road like 40 weeks a year, and now I'm not on the road that much. I still kind of don't mind traveling, but I would imagine you probably...
Oh, it's awful.
It's awful.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, it was more fun in 87. I mean, it's just a lot of standing in line. Right. And
you're a target. You're sitting out there.
That I don't mind. I'm always happy when, like, I mean, look, my interaction with the audience is like 100% positive. Okay. Because people don't like you. They just don't talk to you. Right. But if they're coming up and I like your show.
They either love Dateline or don't watch Dateline.
Right. And they say, right. But the people who watch, like, they really know the show. Like they say, what happened in the mystery on, Sunlight Mountain. Like, which one was that? They're like, the guy, he killed his wife. I'm like, yeah, I need more. But I mean, people are really, really, really into it. And so that's always great to meet them. That's fine. That's meeting viewers is actually the best part of traveling.
Yeah.
All the other parts, like the sitting around and,
Bad hotels, bad food.
Right, the hotel and the inability to like eat anything except, awful food.
Right.
That's not so great.
And you don't have I have a show that I both dread and look forward to, but you have a lot of waiting. There's a
lot of that.
A lot of waiting. That's why that's why I refused to do movies after a while. You remember, Josh? I said, yes, I wanted to do them. I would have wanted to have done more, but they seemed very boring to me.
Right.
They seem boring to me. They seem boring in stand-up comedy. Much more exciting. Why do I sound desperate?
Yeah, no, look, the nice thing about it, you see the country. We don't usually go outside the United States, but you see the whole country on somebody else's dime, so that's fun. A lot of interesting people. There's a lot, the travel itself, the mechanics of travel, the waiting in line at the car rental and
it's dead.
So you don't say, hey, we're going to Vegas. I'm so excited. I'm going to Vegas.
Right. No, it's, well, actually, I know people in Vegas. That's good. But like most of the, I'm going somewhere where I know someone. That's great.
Yeah.
A lot of times you're just,
Omaha.
Hunkered down in the Hampton Inn. Yeah.
Oh, that was the City Confidential guy I was trying to remember. That was the guy who said, in Winesburg, Ohio, they never had the barns open later than 5 p.m. Do you remember this voice at all? He was like, his City Confidential was the name of the show, and he was like the voice from it. Okay, you're going to take this part out? Please do. Yeah. And all the rest of me?
Yeah.
That's right.
That's why
he edits the show.
That's okay.
And so he gets to control
So a lot
everything.
of times, you think I did that episode, and then you're not even in it.
Well, he's not that bad yet.
No.
He does have someone voice match me.
So okay, so let's go.
Has this encouraged you to have more guests or fewer?
Yes, I think so.
No, this is
fewer hosts but more guests.
What? This is like I'm so paranoid. Are we recording?
We're all good. Yeah.
Okay, good.
So let's do some basic murder tips for the would-be murderers out there. I know we've talked about this a little bit before, and you said first thing on the list, leave your phone at home or send it off with someone else somewhere else.
Yeah. The problem is, people are tracked by their cell phones now. And so if your cell phone, is at the murder scene, that's not going to be good.
Right.
And law enforcement's gotten pretty good at figuring out where your phone is. On the other hand, if your phone is home for a long period of time and you never use it,
also,
or if it's off for a certain period of time, no one turns their phone off for 3 or 4 hours.
Not an alibi.
Right? Unless you're on an airplane or something, right? So, there's some things to think about with that. You sort of need a confederate, somebody who can use your phone for a little while, but then that person will know your alibi. So that's a whole separate set of problems.
Okay.
So, I think the best, advice is do not commit murder. Just get a divorce.
You have to have planned some murders in your head.
No, I have not planned murder.
I'm not saying actual put faces to names, but you have to have thought of some, that would be a good one.
Yeah, no, I don't think I'd be good at it because, first of all, the thing that strikes me again and again and again about these people who play murder, they're usually guys, not always, but they're usually guys, is that they really think that, the police are going to come to me and they're going to say, all right, well, what about this? Your wife's dead and, you're having an affair and there was an order of protection against you and you don't have an alibi and, we have you at Target buying, plastic bags and, quicklime, right?
All right.
And they're like, oh yeah, I'm just going to say no when that happens. And then that'll be the end of it. Like the cops are pretty good at telling when you're lying and they're
people vastly underestimate that acting takes skill.
That's right.
People really think that
exactly
acting is a natural thing.
I'll just stick to my story, which was that I didn't do it.
Yeah.
And then everything will be okay.
I learned working on America's Funniest Home Videos for years, and the people who fake clips, there
must be a lot of those, right?
There's a lot of them, yeah. And it's people are bad actors.
Right.
Well, there was a one where I watched, I forget.
You can't fake walking into a glass door, by the way.
That's right.
You can't do it.
Right. You pull back, right? Yeah.
You can't fake it.
Yeah. And you can tell.
Right.
Yeah.
But I watched one where the woman cop, she ended up being the murderer.
Is this America's Funniest or Dateline?
No, but it could have been both. And then they're asking her, did you ever meet her? And she's like,
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about. You're talking about Stephanie Lazarus.
Yes.
Who was a LAPD detective accused of murdering a woman who'd been her romantic rival years and years and years earlier. And she, after this woman married, after the guy that she was interested in married somebody else, she killed that woman.
And then they had the footage and
then eventually her DNA, they had DNA from the original crime, and then, but they didn't have anything to test it against. And then finally, years and years and years later, they figured out the DNA belonged to a woman, not a man, which completely threw the theory of the case, into a whole new light. And so they started looking at who in the case might be, who was involved. It was a woman, which just wasn't a lot of people. And one of the people they came up with was this woman, Stephanie, who'd been a police officer when it happened and then had moved on to detective. And they followed her secretly and got her DNA off a soda can, I think, that she discarded, and then figured out it was her. And then they call her in for an interview. And she says, and she can't give them a straight answer. They say, did you know Sherry? That was she goes, I don't know. I mean, I know she married my old boyfriend, but I'm not sure. Did we meet? She goes, well, I mean, you remember if you ever like confronted her and met her and like argued with her? He goes, you'd think I would remember that, she said. She goes, but I mean, did you ever have a fight with her? And she's like, I don't know. You mean like duke it out? She goes, I mean, I'm sure I remember something like that, and because I think she thought to herself, I mean, you see it on that tape.
And she goes, you guys don't think she even went to the bar. Right. They go, you don't think I'd have anything to do with this?
Right. I mean, the fact that she was a cop.
Terrible actors.
Meant she'd been above suspicion for a long time. Yeah. That's a great story. A book just came out about that.
See? And you told never let it be said. I didn't have to prepare for this if it was like a Jeopardy thing.
Right. Right.
And you got married just a couple of years ago. This is
I got married.
Your first?
Yes, my first, and I think only. I think when you get to my age,
we're all number one here.
Yeah, well, again, this is I complain about travel, but I met my wife in the TSA line at LAX, and then years later we ended up getting married, and yeah, that's been great. I mean, I think the secret in the Mankiewicz family is waiting until you're 60.
Well, I was 40 something. And this is before did you have and this was not pre-TSA probably when you met her, right?
No, that made a big, that was a big help because today I have TSA pre-check and I also have a thing called Clear.
Me too.
Which is the greatest thing
in the world
ever. And
I thought it'd be $1 million. It is not $1 million.
But I'd pay $1 million.
Yes, I would.
Yes. Yeah. It's the pre-check of pre-check.
Yes.
Hi, Josh Mankiewicz here for Clear. If you spend any time traveling, you really need to purchase Clear.
My retina and I say, get on board.
They got me into 2 gigs that I would have missed the flight.
No, it's a huge thing. So at the time there was no Clear and there was no pre-check. And so, she and I were stuck in this line for a good, probably 10 minutes, something like that, which was enough time for me to, talk with her and make it very clear that she was not remotely interested in me. I got a very, very strong vibe off of her during that conversation, which was, I hope I never speak with you again.
And what was she thinking from her side?
That's what she was thinking.
Oh,
yeah, that's her. Oh, yeah.
Stay on board, Andy. Come on.
No, she was.
You didn't misread it.
No, she was. No, I did not. I'm not one of those guys who thought, oh yeah, this is really working. No, I was almost amused. I was thinking like, if this were a party or a bar, she would be saying, well, you know what's very interesting talking to you. Nice to meet you. And
Here
walk
she
away.
comes
Right.
and there she goes.
That was not going anywhere. And I gave her my card. I thought, like, why are you doing that? Like, why are you doing that? She's not going to call you, like, ever. And then she called me. And then we went out. And now we're married.
Nice.
Yeah, she still kind of wonders why she did that. But
And the ceremony is performed by Mark Thompson.
by
correct?
Mark Thompson, right. Which, I mean, let's face it, that means it might not be legal.
That's true. I'm one of those too.
Yeah.
I'm one of those ministers
Unitarian?
as well.
Is it Unitarian?
It's the
Universal Life Church.
Yes.
I've done 4.
Do you know that they're actually in Universal Studios? I never realized that.
It's part of Universal Studios. I know. I could have gotten a cut rate thing because of NBC.
Ordained in the gift shop.
So you've performed marriages, and those people are legally married, right?
As far as I know.
Well, then I probably
as far as I care.
Yeah. Did they stay?
Wait a second.
Who checks after
Right.
a while?
I mean, really, who checks? I don't know. I might be the only person Mark has ever married, I think.
Well, it was a good.
But there was a twist. There was a twist.
And you met him in D.C. as
I did.
kids,
Well,
right?
we grew up together. Yes. Although I need to state here for the record, I'm much older.
Yes.
Who we talking
Mark Thompson.
Ah, Mark Thompson.
Yeah, he's a small child when I started.
Right. He was a hilarious fetus we hung out
Yes,
with.
it was great. When I was graduating from high school, I was 18. He was 6. It was.
Luckily, I've told.
He was like a mascot.
I know.
Luckily, I've told every person I've met my age, and even from across the room. I don't know if you're thinking about what year I was born, but so I never got the secret of trying to hide your age, and good job.
Yeah, no,
And you're back in your last when we were last together. You had been burned out of your condo.
oh yeah, my upstairs neighbor in our building had a fire in her apartment in the dryer, I think. And the ceiling came down. There was a lot of water damage, so we had to redo our place. But now we're back in. Everything's fine.
Better than before?
I think better than before.
Good,
yeah.
good.
I like the way you frame out everything. You could, as opposed to me, which would be.
I'm trying to wrap it up for Josh's sake. No.
I'm sorry, not for my sake.
No.
This has been such a now I know I'm going to ruin it now by going, this is a huge victory because we didn't know what would happen. We would know it's a victory because we're in a big war. You don't know what's happening here. He says you can't interview people. I said you want, and then we do wrestling. But we did things like with live things, and my inability to hear, now it's much better.
It was good.
And so this
you were
was
part of the conversation.
Nothing but joy for me.
Well, that's good. I'm thrilled. I mean, first of all, I have to say, in a little bit of fanboy moment here, when I saw that Andy Kindler had followed me on Twitter, I was very, very thrilled by that.
Whoa.
And I kept clicking on it.
He is going to be dining on this for so long.
I kept clicking on it. I kept clicking on it again and again and again to see on his profile where it says follows you, right? Because what I thought was that he probably had meant to like star or heart something that I had done, and he accidentally ended up following me.
And then he was Jewish self-loathing.
And he was going to end up unfollowing me very quickly. So I kept going back to his profile to see whether he was really following me. And then when he was, that was like pretty thrilling.
Oh, that makes me
Andy.
happy.
Wow.
Fantastic. And you're hilarious on Twitter too.
No.
And Josh is also, this Josh is hilarious.
Yes, other Josh.
Thank you.
There's no meanness in this. None of
we all just gave each other a heart.
That's right. That's right. I liked it better when it was a star.
Yeah, that was better.
You know? Yeah. Because the star implied acknowledgement, as the heart implies I agree with you. Like sometimes I don't want to like something. What I mean is I hear you, not I think you're right.
Right.
Yes.
You know?
The system is problematic. I'm going to say that right now.
It is.
As Mueller said during the hearings.
Yes.
Think of how much, even if they just added italics, think of how many misunderstandings we could avoid.
If they could have somehow mixed in sarcasm with an algorithm that people could know that it was sarcasm without the wink.
Yeah.
Maybe just more arch font.
Mm-hmm. That'd be good.
No.
Josh.
A colored font, like green or
something.
Both Joshes, I want to say, I've been very well behaved, and I think my head's going to explode from the excitement. My head's swimming. My head's swimming from Josh checking his page. I have no more problems after this. This is exactly what I needed to get my self-esteem from others. And this time I win with the self-esteem game.
Wow. Well, we're going to go out on a high. Josh Mankiewicz, thank you so much.
Thank you guys for having me. Thank you
Yay!
so much.
And that's it. That's our interview with Josh Mankiewicz.
I was thrilled by the whole thing. And I know when I'm hard on myself because I can see myself yelling at myself. So I felt like, and I think you will agree that we could not have done something like this like early on.
Yes.
It would have not. Maybe with him because he was so great, and you guys, had you could ask him questions, and I wouldn't be.
Yeah, having had lunch with him a couple times was certainly advantageous to the vibe.
Exactly, and you wouldn't want me on the show with Josh Mankiewicz to be. Hey, Josh Mankiewicz, do you agree with me also that there's too much lawn furniture out there? Doesn't that look like a bocce ball? And he probably would go along with, he wouldn't Brazil it, right?
No, he would laugh, you mean?
I don't know. I just wanted to leave it vague.
Speaking of Alex had a very funny line talking about your speech the other day. This was via text, but he said, I love the last part where he's throwing out jokes like a drug dealer flushing drugs down the toilet before the cops come.
That's exactly right. It's so terrible. No, it's not terrible. I'm over it now, but that's exactly true. Like, ho, ho, ho. But I hope by the time I'm 80, I'm able to futz around with papers without making it into the third degree.
Next year, for the 25th, we're going to streamline the shit out of it.
Next year. We better come. Next year's going to be fun. I'm telling you. And then I will sign another. I signed a 25-year contract.
Perfect.
What does in perpetuity mean?
You sold your soul to the devil's cousin, which was a weird move.
The devil's cousin. Who, you know what? He's just as mean as the devil, but doesn't have the high self-esteem. So it's worse.
Right. He can only offer you what you got.
And he tortures you twice as long. Because he's going, are you sure this is torturous? Look, I have weak devil material because I don't really believe in the devil.
No?
No, I believe in good and bad. Good and bad, I define these words.
I think everyone believes in good and bad.
Good and bad. Look, I never
How's
said
that sandwich? Good? How about that one? Not so good. It's bad.
Everything with you is on a scale of 1 to 10. You go scale of 1 to 10, and I can't think of something funny that follow that way. Scale of 1 to 10. When should I? Is this the street I should turn on? Should I turn on Hazeltine? I can't. It's a day later, but I was on cloud 9 because I knew it was fun, so I didn't really worry about anything.
And we talked for a full hour after the interview.
Yes,
where he got to drop all the names that he wouldn't have dropped had I asked about them on the air. So
I mean, it's nothing like he got stabbed.
No, it's like, yep, he's an asshole. No, he's not.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was looking for.
You always want to find out what your opinion of people are. And it turns out, Rush Limbaugh is really a nice guy. I'm just kidding.
Well, Josh, if you're listening, thanks again for doing the show. It was super fun. And we'll see you at Langer's.
That's right. We're going to see you at Langer's. And I'm telling you, it's one day after it, and I'm on cloud 9. Now, maybe I'm also on cloud 9 because I know there's not much pressure on me now. We're going to do letters.
Right.
But
this is what we should call the gravy section.
It's gravy because usually I'm in my head right now.
A lot of shows would just give you the interview.
Right.
And walk away. Should we ask some questions?
I think that would be a good idea.
All right. Wow.
Can you do that kind of voice?
Is that evil clown or actual evil?
Actual evil.
That's pretty good cartoon evil, wasn't it?
It scared me in a way.
You did seem to cringe a little.
Yeah.
But you cringe a lot. So
sometimes they say binge worthy. I say cringe worthy. Is there an opening for that kind of reviewing?
Yes, there is. Just
binge worthy.
Put on a big cheesy mustache.
I watched it next to a fire. It was singe-worthy. I fell asleep. It was singe-worthy.
Now you're doing Kazurinsky.
All right. I'm going to have some more coffee while you get...
Tweet Bahara says, guys, great SOTI speech. Great job. More like Intera boom.
That's exactly... Why didn't I come up with it? I always say that when someone does something I want.
Mouth Almighty. Great SOTI speech, Andy. Josh, you're a man of many voices. Do you have any special voices you do with your dogs? Oh, I do a lot of voices with my dog.
You mean when you were alone with your dogs?
We've heard Andy talk a bit to Lucky and Clyde, but no Josh talk. By the way, my band just gigged Saturday night in just outside of Rochester.
So much pressure on you because there's always a request for you.
I do. I talk to my dogs, and although I kind of, when I give commands and anything, it's pretty much
straight by the book.
Straight, yeah. Like they know when I'm calm, that's when I'm serious.
And then
if I'm talking like this, I can do that.
But do you do that though?
So, oh God, they get songs, they get stupid voice, but it's not a ton.
It's not
it's
like
a lot of nicknames. It's a lot of.
You don't do any whining to them, right? No whining. No, how come my wife's not here? Allison's left for too long.
Wow.
don't know who that could be.
Oh my God.
Is that Edith Bunker or something?
It was Edith
Oh,
Bunker.
gee. I can't do anything. Maybe I could just record a whole bunch of sounds and hopefully something will land. Oh, gee. Oh, geez, Edith.
The man of 1,000 noises.
The man of 1,000. He gives you just as much of the impression to make you angry.
Terry Caulfield says, thoughts on going to a comedy show alone. I went by myself to see Mark Maron this past weekend here in Raleigh. I had fun. He crushed.
I wouldn't have a problem going.
Just don't sit in the front row at a comedy club alone. But
no one would do that, I don't think. Well, if he did, then God bless him.
But, going to a theater, perfectly good thing to do, I think.
I think I think dining alone, well, I've dined alone a million times.
I imagine.
That's not funny.
Yeah, it was.
You know that my father died alone. Ba-ba-ba-ba-da-bum. It's edgy. Hey, I'm the guy who's not afraid to talk about the death of his close family. You see that guy? Yeah, I don't like him.
That's my dad. Yoshi Yamamoto.
Yoshi, Yoshi, yo, she. That's my new song.
Yamamoto. Ooh.
Was that good? No.
Brought to you by Dissonance.
Dissonance. You don't have to be in tune. Try it our way.
Yoshi says, Andy's shilling for insurance companies I can take, but samurai disinformation is a bridge too far. Samurais used matchlock guns regularly from the 1500s on which they acquired from the Portuguese. Films don't capture this because sword fighting is more fun than muskets.
Wait a second. I'm lost.
This is the Yamamoto thing.
Is this based on my jiu-jitsu tweet?
I'm not sure.
I tweeted that I was studying jiu-jitsu. It sounds like
I think we were talking about your Jimbo, and then someone brought up the Japanese remake of Unforgiven, which had guns.
Okay. Well, I'm lost. Do you know what he's saying then?
Yoshi.
Hey, Yoshi, what if I did this just to torture him? I made up my mind. Medicare for all. Not. Where's the beef? Did you think...
I think we should have a public-private option.
Look, if you're happy with your thing, keep your thing.
Kenny Loggins III.
I still love that name every time I think of it being... How diluted would Kenny Loggins be by the third generation of it, right? He'd just be prancing around happy.
Kenny says, what's a member of Thought Spiral Nation have to do to get their own Yoshi Yamamoto theme song? I'll come wash your cars. For God's sakes, the man says he loves your name 9 out of 10 times, and you still want a song?
Yoshi Yamamoto?
Dip, 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 dip. He's all right. Don't nobody worry about him. Kenny Loggins III.
Kenny Loggins!
There.
You came around one time.
You can still come wash the cars, though.
You came around one time. That was cool. You came around, but then you came around the second, third time, and you were Kenny Loggins the third.
Even though you ain't got a theme song, you still listen every week.
Everything will bring. I don't think you can write songs like that anymore.
No,
everything will bring a chain of, what's it called, schmaltzy?
Yeah.
Who writes like that? Like, they don't even, like, could you write the song Feelings now? I know you wrote it then, but Feelings.
Yeah, of course I could.
Whoa, 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 feelings.
Especially that part.
Soft and tan and hoopa doopa and the...
Make sure you wear your hoopa doopa screen.
Hello, Hawaii.
Television Savalas.
Love that name.
Hey, Andy's speech was great. Congrats, fellas. I heard Andy give asides to Jeff Ross. Has he ever roasted you memorably?
He roasts me every single time that he sees me. So
who doesn't?
I know, but he's like, when you know that he's an insult guy, it makes you even more scared. It's like when you're a kid thinking about a shot that's coming. You're scared of it. You know it's coming, and it always is going to be on the cruel side because that's what he likes to do.
He's an insult guy. Also, he's fat.
Well, he was sitting in the front row, And
which is a dick move if you're Jeff Ross.
Well, he was to the left, though. He was to the left. So that I'll say that's cool.
Okay.
But when he did correctly heckled, why don't you bring back the lounge lizard set?
Yeah.
I didn't like to be pointed out that I wasn't doing well. I didn't love it then, but not because of him. I think all the great insult people are always on the edge of saying something that could make you cry.
Yes. And it's up to you to laugh.
Right. You don't want to be that guy who's like,
Who cries. Yeah.
You don't want to go, that's not nice, Jeff Ross.
Has anyone ever cried on a roast, I wonder?
Yeah, once when Jerry Lewis was done, it was so painful.
Wow.
Josh, I will bet you right now that no one has ever cried on a roast unless someone dropped acid or something like that.
Okay.
Have you ever met anybody?
I don't understand your tone.
Look, do a little research. Hey, does everything have to be a question with you?
Shiftless Element says, how did Andy become aware of DC Shock Jock the Grease Man? As a dumb high school student in the DC suburbs in the early 90s, I have to take some responsibility for Grease's baffling success.
Only reason why I heard him was, you remember that station 97.1 KLSX?
Yeah.
They did a lot of experimenting with on FM with talk radio, and they had the regular guys, and they had the Top like us. They had Conway and Steckler.
Right.
So at one point they did have the Grease Man for like a few months, and then Dave Gruber Allen does a really great.
Who I had
Grease
lunch
Man.
with today.
How's he doing?
He's good.
How long is he in town for?
He's in town still. We're doing a show together Thursday.
What? This is it. That's the last time, and I'm not taking it again. I don't think I could have made it back in the radio days, right?
No.
It's even worse. Bad acting is worse on the radio.
It is. It's amplified.
Mr. Weinberg. Are you telling me Mr. Weinberg wouldn't be classic? You know what Mr. Weinberg
Adapted from Mr. Weinstein.
I was saying Weinberg. Because I follow someone named Weinberg. It doesn't matter what your excuse is, you are losing your mind. Woo!
Let me just say, Andy, we probably have some new listeners because of the Mankiewicz factor.
So don't blow it.
Behave, for fuck's sake.
Yeah. Hey, all right. Hey, if you like the Mankiewicz, don't forget to listen to go back to the vault and listen to us interviewing Elvira.
Mad City Architect says, Josh, Andy, favorite piece of architecture and why?
Well, I'm not big on architecture. I mean, I love architecture, but I don't understand it enough to have a favorite one. I like the lipstick building.
The lipstick
in New York.
building?
Looks like a lipstick container.
Yeah. Is that just something your family calls
I
it?
like a geodesic.
Look, there's the lipstick building. Hey,
There's the
everyone.
popsicle stick house.
Look, lean. So it looks like you're holding up the lipstick, Andy. Come on. Just no.
Hey, I called my
just
house.
step into the street a little. Just step into this, just a little, Andy.
I called it the Leaning House of Pizza because when we first saw it, there was a pizza can in the thing.
A pizza can?
Pizza can.
Andy had a special cookie before we started, and apparently
I did.
it digested very quickly.
I did. It's Dr. Norm's. Oh, I didn't know this was
I
happening.
thought it was on the Dr. Demento show.
Did you
for a
see
second.
this?
I did. It's a dog.
I know, but
Oh my God! You
was
took
the
acid. Didn't
cutest-
you? You took acid, didn't you?
look, okay, here's the thing. I haven't taken acid in a long time. I was so jazzed about last night. I thought this is when I should do it again.
Right.
This is when we get down to the essence of what talking's about. Okay, I'm okay now.
All right, good. My favorite piece of architecture is the toaster building.
Toaster building.
I have this special love of the Wrigley Building in Chicago on the river.
How's that separate from the Wrigley Field?
By about 5 miles.
Oh, it has
Or
no
more.
relation to it?
It's completely
Is it gum
related.
based?
Same Wrigley.
Is it gum based? Okay.
Love that building. Really cool. It almost has a sort of landscapey quality to it. There's something about that facade on the river that
I can't believe I've never seen it now. I think I've seen
I'm sure
pictures
you
of
have.
it. It has Wrigley in neon.
No, it does not.
Does it have, hey, come here?
No, it's sort of castle-like, which isn't generally what I like.
I haven't seen it now, I realize. I have to see it, though.
It's, where the Sun-Times building is?
I don't think I do.
Right.
Is that, wait, where do they have all the big radio shows and not the big, radio shows? Is that the area?
What do you mean, radio shows?
Like this guy, talk radio, my friend Howard Leff is on, that has a show.
Across from the Chicago Theater in that building?
Look, I'm tired of bringing up things that I don't know anything about.
I'm a little tired of it myself.
Now, let me tell you something, Josh.
Yeah?
I'm tired of me.
I wish you could.
I'm tired of me bringing up things that have no answers because of my acid taking.
Yeah. Michelle Weiscarver says, I've been listening to podcasts featuring Jackie Cation, the fabulous stand-up comedian. She clearly thinks very highly of both of you. Very cool to know she has such good taste. Aw. And then parenthetically, thanks for the retweet of my overhead drone tweet, Andy. Thought you might relate.
Yes, I enjoyed that. And I
also am hugely sick of overused drone shots in documentaries. It doesn't add the production value that these people think it does.
The only time I liked it was when they did an overshot of Leno walking down. She was doing a drone joke. Leno drone.
Just finish it. I don't care what joke you're doing.
I like that character. The person, look, I'm not going to laugh even if you tried it, but just get it over with.
I guess that's the essence of my attitude.
I haven't answered one question. By the way,
you haven't finished one sentence, Andy. Something's happened to you. By
the way, hi, Michelle Weiscarver. And that's something that most people won't say in the middle of the letter.
No, it's very brave of you. Larry Harold says, Into the Wayback Machine, first record you bought, first movie you saw in a theater. Well, the first movie I remember seeing in a theater was Young Frankenstein, and it terrified me. I know I saw movies before that, but the first one I can definitely say when I was like 3.5, I figured out was Young Frankenstein.
Well, I have
It was my brother's 7th birthday.
And you were too young for it.
Yeah, way too young. It was a fucking horror movie if you don't get jokes. It was modeled after the Universal horror movie.
How old were you?
3.5.
What were they? That doesn't sound like the parents of
yours,
I know.
It wasn't sensible parenting. My parents were very into not censoring and shit. And,
right.
And we were both very mature, but I wasn't mature enough for that.
Could you even sit still for that long at 3.5?
No, I had to be sort of taken out many times because I was terrified by Marty Feldman's bug eyes and Peter Boyle on fire.
And what did your brother think?
I'm sure he loved it.
Well, have you ever checked it with him?
I know he loved it.
That would be good for podcast purposes.
I know he loved it.
Well, I have a similar story to yours. Maybe I've told it before, but my parents were not there in many ways, but certainly emotionally. But they took us to see The Miracle Worker because they thought it was a Disney film. And it turned out to be the story of Helen Keller. It is the most disturbing film I also was probably 3.5 or 4 or a similar age that it frightened the living daylights out of me because Anne Bancroft, I think, is wrestling with Patty Duke.
Right. So
when I think of that story, and now that I'm in therapy, I never remember the part of the story where my parents take me to an ice cream parlor and say, sorry, buddy, that was a rough one, huh? That was a rough one. We blew it. You know what we're going to do for you, champ? We're going to Bertelson's, which was an ice cream parlor.
It sounds like an ice cream parlor.
So how could you make a mistake like that?
I don't know. I just think they figured.
Oh, no. They didn't make a mistake. They made a mistake. They thought it was a Disney movie.
Yeah.
So The Miracle Worker.
Right.
But then why would they stay?
Because they're there. They paid for it. That's how I assume. That's what your parents' voice came into my head. We paid. We'll stay. I
defy anybody to have anybody that age watch that movie and then tell me what you think. And we're out.
I want to break into my impression of the movie, but it's offensive.
First of all, I would never imagine you would do an impression of The
Miracle Worker.
Yeah,
the water scene. Come on.
Oh, no. Okay, folks. Look, folks, we're gonna shut down the show now because I don't know if I can add onto my terrible memory of the event Josh's halting Helen Keller impression.
Tweepahara says, Josh, have you heard of Domian's My Pillow Guy? I did. I heard him on the President cartoon.
How was it?
It was good. I have to say.
Oh, wait a second.
I'm not intimidated by it. That's one area where I think if I took my best My Pillow guy, and granted, I have good days and bad days, but on my best day,
okay,
I think I have enough of the ear for the Minnesotan twangs.
Well, that's absolutely true. That's absolutely true. You could, and he might not, and that would be a hard ear for him to get.
Yeah. And he doesn't have, in his impression, I didn't hear it very much. So that's where I think that's the one impression. Oh, and I'd work on it.
Okay. You hear that? I don't mean we're going to challenge you to
and now that we have guests, who knows?
I would love it. Oh, I don't mean.
They could do you the whole
Now
hour.
that I know it doesn't have to be Joel Madison. It's like
It's like a whole new world.
Oh my God. Because I thought about him saying, I'm thirsty. Can we stop for a second? My bladder. Andy. No deli.
Adam Nikolic says, have you ever passed on performing because of weather that wasn't a storm? Summertime East Coast humidity is miserable.
I can't say the temperature.
I can't go. It's hot.
I never forget.
I don't want to work. It's hot.
1987, I was working Chester John. And they said it was the biggest heat wave to hit the city.
I still did 3 shows that night.
I don't like I will answer the question this way. I prefer to be on the West Coast. I really don't like the New York humidity, and I like snow. Don't get me wrong. I just like, if it's going to be beautiful weather, I don't want it to be muggy too. Is that too much to ask? I mean, the world's going pretty well.
Josh Caterer says, supposedly there's a lost episode of Columbo featuring Dr. Joseph Mengele as a villain.
I can't believe how
Can you
every
imagine
time
the final scene where Lieutenant Columbo gets him to confess?
Every time it starts out, I never catch that it's going to be that. Whoever, is that a guy?
One more thing, Dr. Mengele.
What?
It's pronounced Mengele. Dr. Joseph Mengele. Right, Dr. Mengele. Just this one question. I was wondering, did I see 2 identical twins leaving your apartment with their hearts on the outside of their bodies the other night?
Oh, Josh, you're right. I would like to withdraw.
No, that's a lie. They never left my apartment alive. That experiment fit. Damn you, Columbo.
That can't be the Columbo episode where he catches Mengele. Is that Mengele?
Yeah.
Mengele. Bobby. I am having so much fun. I think I'm turning into a person. I don't want to get ahead of myself. I may be beloved now. Both of your dogs love me. They don't care about you. They love me. They're all over me like a cheap thing.
I'm boring the hell out of them this week. I really am.
Why do you have to ruin all of my grandiose periods?
No, I'm saying they're grateful to you.
I know.
Okay. So fucking,
you know what?
fucking back off.
Well, you know what I do? I sometimes I want to get into the obnoxious character. I just back out a lot. But I know it's not. There's diminishing returns.
Yeah.
Hey, fuckface. Hey, it's the mean guy.
Chaotic Neutral says, hey, guy. And he did say guy instead of guys.
Chuck McCann tribute.
Hi, guy. I like how you both use Twitter. It's a nice mix of jokes and shameless self-promotion. How much time do you usually spend on a Twitter joke? What does it take to get a follow? I mean, my Twitter jokes are knee-jerk expulsions from me. I don't sit and compose Twitter jokes for long. It's only if a joke forms, I go on Twitter and post it is kind of how it works.
Right. Yeah.
If I have a joke thought, I go, oh, that's a tweet. Boom.
I have, because of my OCD, I have, any way I can cut, because of my OCD, any way I can cut back is good. If I can cut back, because I tweet, in fact, I've tried to even do a thing like, okay, you want to tweet that? Put it on a piece of paper and then come back an hour later.
I don't do that, but my tweets are very knee jerk. I mean, I'll compose the joke, but it's not a long thing.
What was the last part?
I've never spent 5 minutes composing a tweet.
Well, then that's another thing that's an OCD, way to overcome OCD. If sometimes you can just convince yourself there's no reason to, you're going to read all of these things 3 months from now. They're not going to knock you out. Right. So if you are struggling, stop it.
Right.
It's not that important. So I'm better able to do that than I was before,
Kurt B says, any chance of doing chunks singles as you build new material? I don't know. I got to see what, how many I sold of the album first. And if there's any.
What does singles mean?
Like just tracks, I think.
Oh, he wants to release. Is he saying, would you do more of them just as singles?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's good to have I think when you do a CD and I've only released one.
Yeah.
That maybe you don't want to be tied. You just don't want to be tied to the name of the other CD. You know what I mean?
I don't know. I mean, it also could be a cool brand, the chunk, the J. Elvis Weinstein chunk.
That's true. That's true.
Hey,
what's
new chunk from J. Elvis Weinstein is dropping this Tuesday.
You're listening to Chunk.
We got a new chunk. Everybody. I know you're all chunking at the bit for the new chunk.
This chunk goes out to these Vine listeners in Orange County.
Vine listeners.
Yeah. Hey, I didn't tag you in the questions today. I thought that was a very gentlemanly of me to follow directions.
Nice work, Andy.
You know, you shouldn't poo-poo it.
Nope.
Are you poo-pooing it?
I'm not.
Okay.
I'm patronizing you.
Are you? No, that's sarcasm, right? Are you?
Jordy says, with the triumphant SOTI in the books, who still needs to be taken down a peg? Think I can speak for all the loyal listeners that we are ready to do your bidding. For example, we can politely shush the Dateline guy who speaks too loudly for Andy's taste.
Who's that guy?
He's Craig Melvin. You were bitching about one.
Oh, yeah, but Craig Melvin, he's not even related to that show. Craig Melvin is doing a thing. He might as well be doing American Airlines TV with the wraparounds. For the rap, unless Josh tells me don't say this again. The meat of the show is.
Why would you hit Craig?
I didn't mean to.
The Josh Mankiewicz episode. Why would you do that?
No.
Why would you do that,
Wait,
Andy?
who are we talking
Andy,
about?
we're gonna get fired.
Oh, you said Craig Melvin. You said Craig Melvin. He's good. I like him. I like him. He's good. Ba ba bink, ba ba bink, ba 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 da bum. Petunias.
Seth Dick the Third says, Andy, please tell that funny joke about the two Jews who see a church paying converts.
You know that one, right?
Sure.
These two Jews, they're driving down the street and they pass a church that says, we pay $50 for converts. And so Shmoymi goes, Herman, they pay $50 for converts. Why don't you go in there and see if you can get the $50? Okay, Shmoymi. So Herman goes in to see if he can get the $50. He's there for 1 hour. He's there for 2 hours. He's finally after 3 hours, he comes back and Shmoymi goes, did you get the money? He goes, is that all you people ever think about?
Gold.
You know what though?
I
have to tell you something. I don't know about these requests because I started to get very depressed in the middle of it.
Yeah.
You know,
it's because you hadn't committed at the beginning, so you had no downhill to go.
Do you think if I took a workshop, you could do my accountability comedy coach?
There you go.
Andy, did you really try?
I think that's what I was last week. After the thing, I was your accountability coach about this speech.
And I didn't do, folks, this show's been off the air for 10 years. That's going to make me laugh. And you're going to say, if I die, are you going to say I was stupid? Because
no, it'll speak for itself.
Okay, good.
Jim Meehan says Shecky Green is 93 years old, but not dead, as Josh thought in Test Show 117. Anything but.
I'm glad. I love Shecky Green. I feel bad though that he's one of those people that I love him because of the character that he is, but I'd love to see, I don't know if there's anything that's captured on film. I just haven't seen stuff that's captured on film, but that doesn't even matter. Just the Frank Sinatra joke. It's funny enough for me.
Which is? That
he says, hey, Frank Sinatra, he saved my life last week. I was getting beaten up outside the Sands and, Frank Sinatra came over and said, that's enough, fellas. That's enough. But it's based on a true story is the thing. I could never have been around during the days where you had
people
a mob.
Got beat up.
And a mob.
Yeah.
Like, I'm mad at my agent. What do you mean you're mad at your agent? What are you going to do? He's in the goddamn mob. No, but Rickles said that Vegas was Rickles was very had a lot of intimate knowledge of all of Gangland. Is there any reason why you can't cut me off?
No.
Okay.
I do it in post.
I heard you don't even have to be there anymore. You've come up with an algorithm of things that I say.
It's the opposite of artificial intelligence.
I don't know what that means, but it's made me laugh.
Perfect.
Don't act like you're the Wizard of Laughs. Perfect. But I don't know why I laugh, Josh. Sometimes you never do. One cookie? I doubt it. One cookie? Dr. Norm.
So it's just, so what you're saying is not the cookie, you're just as annoying?
I'm very, very high.
Okay, all right.
I'm very, very high. I blame you.
For saying yes, you can have a cookie.
What were you going to say to me? No?
Exactly.
I come over here an extra, I'm not even charging you for the extra trip. If I got the podcast union on the phone, you think they put up with these conditions? That you have me over here, slave?
I would have reported you if there was a podcast.
Triangle Shirts Factory Studio?
For your malpractice.
Okay, let me perk up for the next few questions.
There's no more questions.
Don't you always usually go, and finally here's something? And finally here's something.
Yoshi Yamamoto just came back with, I wish Nicky Pockets still submitted questions so we could hear Josh say Nicky Pockets without me having to shoe the horn them in. Where are you, Nicky Pockets? I don't remember Nicky Pockets, so
what's Nicky Pockets from?
I don't know. Nicky Pockets must have used to be right in, but I don't have much of a memory.
Isn't that from Goodfellas? Johnny 1, 2, 3, because he counted to 3. Bobby, I got a cold because he had a cold. Susie, I don't feel so good. I think I'm gonna have to cancel lunch.
Tommy Club Sandwich because he had a particular sandwich one day.
If you just like to have sandwiches with bacon, chicken, and lettuce, well, then you just might be doing a club sandwich. Well, Josh, I want to thank you, and I want to thank Josh Mankiewicz, who was a dream.
I'm sorry we sullied your show, Josh, here in the second hour. Don't
listen to this part. You do is you go listen to 243 through 390. No, but this was, and I know people are going to say, how are we going to deal with the newfound fame? How many other guests are we going to have?
We'll play it by ear.
Yeah, because we don't want to, if we get anything that's a formula.
Tell us what you thought by writing to us at thoughtspiralshow@gmail.com or tweet us.
But if you review, we only want the best reviews.
Yeah. If you have a good review and 5 stars in you, go to iTunes and rate and review us. If you don't, give it to someone else.
I'm Andy Kindler. If you enjoyed my act, my name is Andy Kindler. If you didn't enjoy my act, my name is Josh Elvis Weinstein.
At least you remember my name now.
I didn't before?
No.
I said Weinberg.
Yes, you did.
Mr. Weinberg.
Yes.
Now look, Josh.
Yes.
What's coming out? When is this coming out? Next Monday? I hope
after you're back from Bloomington. Yeah.
What a trip I had to Bloomington.
You're not a cutter. I'm a cutter. Watch Breaking Away while you go to Bloomington.
Oh, I love that movie.
Clearly.
It's shot in Bloomington?
Yes, you clearly love the shit out of it.
Oh, so that was Judge Reinhold. Ba-ba-ba-ba-dum-bum. Schmingy. I didn't know that. No one told me it was shot near Indiana University, the campus of. I got to see it again.
Yeah,
the kid says he's Italian. Thank you, Josh, for everything.
Thank you, Andy, for some of it.
Wait, can I try one more ending?
Okay.
You ready?
Sure.
Okay, Josh, I have to. Oh, ouch! I've fallen and hurt my head. You're right. Get out earlier than that. Oh my God! What do we have? It's gonna be a 9-hour show now.
No, it's not.